recording now. Okay, so what do you want to work on today?
Um,
Like, is there anything specific that you want to go over?
um, I just made my like structure, like outline. That's all I kind of did.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure if this topic kind of works.
Yeah. So do you want to talk like about the topic?
Yeah.
Okay,
Kind of
perfect.
topic.
Do you have the assignment sheet?
Yeah. It's like.
Okay, perfect. Do you understand like what the assignment is asking you for? Okay, perfect. So the essay is kind of like an analytical and synthesis essay, right? So do you know like what does each of these essays entails, like an analytical essay and a synthesis essay?
Um, not really.
No. Okay, so okay, let me like kind of like tell you a little bit. So in an analysis paper, like you're looking at different works or maybe one work, but in this case various works, and you kind of have to like draw them together. You know what I mean? Like create an argument that um that links those works together so that you can use like those supporting statements from those texts to support your main thesis. Okay, and a synthesis is basically like an essay that also like takes different things from each of those, but it's more about like how to relate those articles together and like how to use them. Yeah, it's kind of similar to an analysis, but an analysis paper like you have to develop your own argument. You know what I mean? It's more like analyzing the like the deeper meaning of the texts. Okay, perfect. So do you want to work on your thesis, on your topic, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you want, like, you can pull it up. Perfect. Do you want to read it out loud to me?
The thesis.
Yeah.
I haven't written proper thesis yet though.
Yeah, it's okay. Like, it's a working thesis.
So, like, the writers of the working class 1988 and Nickel and Dime have illustrated more people's social standings by the different types.
Okay, perfect. So do you want to tell me a little bit about the works that you're gonna use?
Oh, so like Nickel and Dime is like this girl called Erin Wright. She's like wealthy, but she tries an experimental like living from like a place where like from three different places.
Yeah.
With like the minimum amount of money, and she works on a low wage work to like kind of like um experience like how it is to be like a low wage class, and the working class 1988 is like this girl called Tess. She's trying to um like slowly become like more of like high class like wealthy
Yeah.
people.
Like the opposite, you'd
Yeah.
say, from nickel and dime.
Mhm.
Okay, perfect. So what do you like? How do you have you find any relationship in between the two?
Uh, so like something similar might be like they're all like living in living as like a lowish worker.
Yeah. And what is interest like what about these works has interested you in order to write a paper about it?
Like um
It's fine. Like we're working here
Yeah.
to make it better. Um, okay, so what do you find interesting from Nickel and Dimed?
So in nickel and dime, you can like see in a low-wage worker's perspective and like how low-wage workers are like mistreated and stuff like that. That's kind of interesting.
Okay, and for the working class, 1988,
With the working girls.
the working girl.
So like in for the working girls, it's kind of interesting to see how Tess trying to go up the ladder like to the top,
Yeah,
staying not trying to stay in like low-wage worker. Low-wage
yeah.
worker.
Okay, perfect. And for Nickel and Dime, like, what would you say that like why did the author do what she did? You know what I mean? Like, why do you think she wanted to make herself a low wage worker or things like that?
Oh, I think because she tries to. She's a journalist, so like she wants to like experience and like test like how it is to be like the working. I mean the lowest minimum wage worker at that period.
Yeah.
So like in that period, the welfare reform act was kind of in place. So like she wanted to like test the living of the wage worker.
Okay, perfect. And for the working girls, what would you say was it Tess?
Yeah.
Tess's like purpose of going up the social ladder?
Yeah.
Like why did she want to do
Oh,
this? Does she say it anyway in the book
like
or
she
the
just
film?
wants to be like wealthy and like not care about more about her like, financial situation.
Yeah. Um. Okay, so let's break down your thesis and see like how can we make it a little bit more elaborated because like you definitely have something to work with, but we can make it more like complex and like what do you as the author of your paper want to communicate in terms of these two works? You know what I mean? Okay, so the writers of The Working Girls and Nicole and Dime have illustrated more on people's social standings by different types of food. When you say that they have illustrated more on people's social standings by different types of food, what do you mean? Like, what does the relationship of food have to do with like their financial status?
Also like in the film like working girls like Tess she suggests like a dumpling like feast for like her um to her boss. I thought it kind of connects to her like social class because like dumplings more for like people who are not like really rich but like it's kind of tasty but like
Yeah,
so like I think kind of connected to how she is not really
high class.
yeah.
But does she like? Do you know that because of like personal experience of stuff like that with dumplings, or is it common knowledge, or does Tess say that dumplings are not like something maybe a high class person would eat? Like, how do you know that dumplings represent maybe lower wages?
Cause like dumplings are like easy to get, cheap food, and like she suggests that for she's a secretary, so it's like she kind of arranged with the party, like not the party, but like the meetings with like between upper class people with like dumplings
Yeah.
she serves dumplings. That was kind of interesting.
Okay,
Because
so yeah,
I'm expecting more of like steak and stuff like that.
yeah, like elegant.
Yeah, elegant stuff. Dumpling.
Okay, perfect. And in Nickel and Dime, how do you see food portrayed as a sign of maybe like their social standing?
So like in nickel and dime, like a lot of lowest workers, they don't like have very much of like high nutrition like food.
Hmm.
So like they eat like very low nutrition food and like they yeah and they
But because like the author says it, or like, or you can see it how she's saying like, oh no, we
yeah
ate
you can
this,
see
we
it.
ate. So that's your like what I've understood until now is that you want to use food as your central topic, like to draw these works together and like how food can represent someone's social class.
Yeah, I was like working on it. Yeah, I was trying to do this, but like
Yeah.
it was kind of like it's a 5 to 6 page essay, so like
So do you think that you have enough like
you know
for food? No.
like I kind of had stuff like kind of written down, like examples,
Yeah.
but I don't know if it's like sufficient. Like,
Okay, so do you want to read them aloud too?
so so I kind of like made it in like kind of bullet notes, like not a full sentence,
Yeah.
not like a proper sentence. So the first body would be like how she suggests dumplings for the event. So like kind of like social class and food. Like,
Okay.
and like second body paragraphs like so how like Aaron and nickel and dime um eats like only like minimum wage workers food like kind of like not well nutrition and like
Yeah.
lacking stuff and like for body three it's more like um so like this girl a maid she faints because of like a because she couldn't have like like proper food for
Yeah.
work. So I was trying to talk about how like low nutrient food on low wage workers like influence on their health and poor body forms
Okay, so here what you have like are like it's definitely good because you have examples, but that's more like about the synthesis part and about like how those two works like have similar things that relate, but I- like you have to develop stronger arguments. You know what I mean? Like
yeah
for each topic, since it's like okay, those are the examples, but what is the point that you want to get across to your readers? So I think that you're right when you say that it might not be enough, like, because if you get a topic that it might be like too vague, maybe there can come a point in when you're writing the essay that you're just repeating yourself. You know what I mean? So I don't know if you have like nickel and dimed with you or
it's like fashion online
yeah, because we could like if you want, um, we could like look into one of the paragraphs and try to like analyze it and look what's the hidden meaning, and maybe you could go off from that and develop a more detailed thesis. But I don't know if you want to like stick to the food topic or do you want to like what are the discussions you have had in class
yeah
about it?
um I kind of like decide my topic I don't
Yeah.
know the kind of know what to write it's just this like argument in response to
Okay. So when it says bring your own experience and thinking, can you use the first person?
yeah I think so
Yeah. Have you asked your professor?
not yet.
No. I think you should definitely email her about it. Because if you can use um first person, maybe it might be easier like to use the food example for your argument, and maybe you could do like a contrasting thing between the works and your personal life, and that would definitely be interesting. But if you cannot use your first person and your own experience, like it's definitely going to be a little bit more difficult to develop. um where are you from?
Korean.
Okay, so do you guys eat dumplings there or not really?
If you find them, it's okay.
Yeah, but it's not like a common food
Yeah.
there. Oh, okay. Um, because maybe I thought that you could like maybe you had some experience with dumplings or something like that, but I think it's definitely interesting. Like, well, for example, I'm from Colombia. Like, I love dumplings. We don't really eat them back home. Like, you can if you go to a restaurant, but um, but I would have never thought that that was a representation of maybe low wage because it's so different in my country.
Oh, I see.
So you could maybe like talk about that, about like how some foods are represent low wage in those countries, but not in others. So like in these works specifically, maybe for the author of Nickel and Dime, there was like, I don't know, let's say rice. Like maybe rice for her was a low wage thing because she could afford it easily. But maybe in, I don't know, in another country, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like it's just an idea for you to start thinking. So I don't know if you want to like brainstorm or you want to like do what I told you about the passage of Nickel and Dime,
Um, mm,
because we have around 10 minutes left, and I really want you to like leave with
um,
something in your hands.
she just like brainstorm.
Do you want to brainstorm new ideas
Yeah.
for the thesis, or
Like, for new ideas on thesis.
okay, perfect. Okay, we can do this in a little maybe Venn diagram of the working girls, and nickel and dimed. So we can fill them up, and here would be your analysis, like the two things that these have in common, or that you can draw from each. Okay, so the working girls is from low to high status, right? High to low. You can keep like saying different things that you.
Oh, like time. Oh,
Here in the middle, we could put like social mobility because they're moving, although they're moving in different ways in the social status, they're both like, they both talk about social mobility, right? Okay,
um, nickel and dime is like, I mean, they both talk about how the lowest workers are like, kind of like mistreated from
okay.
their like boss. It's like they're kind of like easily replaceable.
And have you like have you seen something like that in Korea, like how they might how might superiors mistreat?
Mm.
Yeah, because we could like if you can use the first person in your personal experience, we you could like
Oh,
incorporate that. So like an example.
I was trying to write about that, but like, I realized I used that kind of topic for my second essay.
Yeah, and you cannot use something similar to your second essay.
I'm not sure.
Ask. You should definitely ask because like for example for me like I personally don't know Professor Rourke, but for other essays that I have done in the past, like in rhetoric, they definitely allowed me to use ideas from other essays because it was
Oh,
like we were moving towards that, you know what I mean, like constructing ideas to the final essay, so we were allowed to take ideas from the other one. So maybe you could do that and that would be much easier. What's this essay do?
um, the rough draft is like to Wednesday, and the final draft is due on like May 1st.
Okay, so you still have time.
May 2nd, yeah.
So for the rough draft, I would definitely like email your professor with the questions that we talked about the first person, personal experience, and about using your previous essays, because that would definitely make your life easier. And for the final draft, if you want, like when you have some like your first draft already made, you could definitely book an appointment for the writing center and maybe talk about your first draft. Okay, so what else? The food, we talked about the food, like food as a representation. Food as a representation of social class. What else?
Um, hmm,
What were the things that impacted you the most when seeing these or when reading them?
just like, hmm, yeah, I could tell that they're being mistreated. Um,
Maybe like how were they being mistreated? Were they being mistreated equally in nickel and dime than the working girls, like in the same way? Because maybe you could, if they're mistreated differently, maybe you could talk about that, like how they're both mistreated, but depending on the area in which they're working, they mistreat them differently.
oh,
Right. So mistreatment, I'm gonna draw a little arrow here, like how, uh, same or different.
when they find time, it's more um, like health plans, like food, and like wage and stuff like that. But like for the working girls, it's more um, it's more like sexually harassment
Okay.
and like being rude.
Okay. So like, okay. So definitely like, and then also food, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or so here, I feel like this is a good thing to like start with. And you could definitely incorporate the food thing that you already have and some of the examples that you already looked for, because you can maybe make your central argument like that in these works, like um, they're both mistreated because they come from a lower class, and maybe you could list the different types of mistreatment and then do different paragraphs like arguing like how are they mistreated and like why are they mistreated and why are they mistreated differently. But you could also do a paragraph like joining them together in the food part, like
Mm-hmm.
although they're like the work environment in which they um, live, it's different from each other, like food is definitely like a common thing, and then you can maybe talk a little bit about that. But I don't know, like we have 5 minutes left, so I don't know if you want to keep brainstorming and seeing. I'm going to give you this paper at the end, so
Okay.
yeah. So I don't know if you want to keep brainstorming or if you want to work on something else.
Mm-hmm. Um, what should we work?
We can keep doing this if you want,
Okay.
so that you can maybe when you get to your room or wherever, you can see this and maybe organize yourself mentally to see what is the argument that might work. Or I have a quick question. What do you mean, like, have illustrated more on people's social standings?
Oh, so like for like upper class, I mean like for like the working girl,
Yeah,
like the double play thing, it's like
yeah,
um it kind of illustrates how Tess is like the lowish worker, not lowish worker, but like low class
yeah.
people, and yeah, and like for like something like nickel and dime, there's like other food that comes out, kind of showing how they're not well nutrition the
Yeah,
low
what
workers.
you told me before.
So
Okay,
I thought it kind of like the food, like the types of food they show in like the film and like the book kind of illustrates like people's social like class.
depending on food.
Yeah.
Okay, like what has I told you before, like it's a good thing, like that you're getting at, but like what's the main so what of that argument? You know what I mean?
Mm,
Like when the reader's like going through your essay, like reading your thesis, like they say like why should you read this? Like mm, what's the big like driver of the essay? Like you know what I mean? Like the
yeah.
most interesting part about it. That's what I'm trying to get
Um,
at.
really hard.
Yeah, I know it's hard. Maybe you could like watch the film again and like really, did you guys watch it in class?
Ah, no, I just watched
Maybe you could go watch it again because like every time that you watch something, or at least me, um, we find like new things. So maybe like with the idea of like mistreatment and food and other things, you can go with this and say like, okay, and go look for specific things on the film that might help you. You know what I mean?
it.
And maybe go to do nickel and dimed. And did you like underline or highlight something in here? And maybe you could go to those highlighted things and after watching the working girls again and doing a little list of the things that interested you the most, do the same with the passages in nickel and dimed, and then do this, like have them there, have the list of nickel and dime here, the list of the working girls here, and then do like a little thing. Really, that works a lot. And then see like, okay, what's the interesting thing about this, and ask yourself questions like what can I do about this, or like how does this portray it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's a really good exercise. Like um, and yeah, and email your professor 100% about those questions. Um, but yeah, I don't know if you have any more questions or.
Um, like, would it be okay to like write a paper like kind of like contrasting between like these two things?
Yeah, definitely, and that's what you're trying to do, but you want to like compare and contrast them with your own argument, not their own argument. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, so for example, let's say that you read a book on bananas that it says that bananas are the best thing for you, and then you read a book on apples that it says that apples are the best thing for you. And then what you want to do with those two is like create your example, for example, like and say like bananas are not good because blah blah blah, and then say and apples are better, and that would be your main argument. And then you say like why from your personal experience you think that apples are better than bananas, and maybe like introduce a contrasting point like, yeah, although apples are better than bananas give you more potassium. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's such a stupid example, but when you think about it in that way, it's maybe like easier to think about what is an analytical and a synthesis essay. But yeah, Okay, I'm gonna give you this. So today's Sunday, so you basically like I don't know if you, but I don't have anything to do. Like I dedicate Sundays to do work, so maybe you could do that um, with both of the works, and yeah, like definitely book another session with the writing center, and maybe when you have a more formed argument, they could give you a lot more input. But yeah, okay.